OK, well, let's go from Isaac in Hong Kong and speak to Enrica, who's live with us from Oslo in Norway. Enrica, we just had an email there from Peter in China who says this could well be provocative. Do you think that was what the Nobel Committee wanted to be?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you think the Nobel Committee was being deliberately provocative towards the Chinese government?
A bit, actually, because I think the Nobel Committee is trying to provoke a little bit to create a public debate about human rights in China. But I don't think it's provoking badly, because it's important to bring this debate up in the light.
So that's interesting. You say it is provocative, but you're comfortable with that idea?
Yes, I am comfortable. I think it's a bit provocative, but that's not the main reason for nominating this candidate for a winner. OK, so you say you're comfortable with it. Let's bring in another guest here. Lim Tian Su is with us from Singapore. Lim, do you think that it's the role of the Nobel Prize givers to think, actually, I need to provoke a country or an organisation into changing its behaviour? Are you happy with it playing that role? Oh, I'm afraid we can't speak to Lim right at the moment, but in the moment, let me put that, we'll speak to them in a moment. First of all, Andrew Leung, I'll ask you the same question. Is it the role of the Nobel Committee to be provocative?
Well, you just earlier on referred to the question whether the Nobel Committee is being politicized. But I think there is a little bit of politicizing, as our colleague just in Norway just mentioned. For example, the nomination of Obama. I mean, what has Obama done? But then the nomination of Obama is also a kind of political maneuver to showcase how someone could be urged to change the world. Mm-hmm. And here in this nomination, I think what the committee wants to do is to highlight all these values and for open debate. But I think that my point is that herein lies a deep divergence of China's approach to certain values compared with the Western approach to these values. I'm not saying that these values are not universal. For example, marriage is a universally held institution. But as to whether or not how marriage could be implemented or practiced, especially whether marriage should be imposed on someone regards as a 3-year-old daughter. So I think that this is it underlies a lot of the differences between how the West regards certain values and how the Chinese leadership regards how these values should be upheld and when they should be practiced and how practiced and in what way.
And I think this is one of the interesting things that we're seeing in all the emails coming into the BBC. It happened last year with Barack Obama. You're not just discussing whether the person in question deserves the award, you're also discussing the role of the Nobel Committee. That's something we're going to pick up on BBC World Service Radio a little later at 17 hours GMT. Andrew's in Hong Kong. Nafet's emailed us from the States. We'll pull that up in just a moment. But we've got the chance now to speak to someone calling themselves Sunshine Sleep. Not the first person to say they don't want to use their real name. Sunshine Sleep is in Nanjing in China. What's your reaction to this award?
Okay, first time I think it's I feel happy to see the news slides. The first Chinese citizen to win this Nobel Peace Prize, but at first I can't see this news in my own media, just like CCTV and some news website. But I knew this news at New York Times and BBC, and I feel so happy. I would like to tell this news to others, but I can't translate this news to the others who can't know English, and so I feel a little disappointed because others who can know this news don't know Liu Xiaobo do to fight for our human rights.
So it sounds like you have mixed emotions, Sunshine Sleep. Thank you very much indeed for joining us live from Nanjing. Now let me bring you some breaking news. Norway's ambassador to China was summoned to the Chinese Foreign Ministry this Friday over the Nobel Committee's decision to give the Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo. That's news from the Norwegian government. Let's get instant reaction to that from New York, from Columbia University to be precise. Andrew Nathan is an academic there, a specialist in Chinese affairs. Andrew, thanks for joining us on World Have Your Say. Do you think the Nobel Committee have bitten off maybe more than they can chew with this award?
No, not at all. I don't see why. I mean, they're not an agency of the Norwegian government. I don't think China has any way to punish the committee.
But is it the role of the Nobel Committee to take decisions which will clearly upset governments and, in some cases, upset populations? Because it's worth saying we're getting as many emails to the BBC objecting to this from inside of China as we are people supporting the decision.
The Nobel Peace Prize Committee has a particular political line they've always pursued, which is that they're in favor of peace. They believe human rights are necessary for peace, and so I think that is a controversial position around the world, and it is their role to promote that position.
Shuang Chen, your reaction to this news, is this normal for China to take actions like this?
Well, it's normal in more than one way, because obviously this is to the Chinese authorities a confrontation and provocation, of course. But for another, the Chinese government is talking about maintaining social stability, and if a peace award like this awarded to a Chinese prisoner, that would send a signal to people inside China to stand up for their rights, and hopefully some more people would take up the cause where Liu Xiaobo failed to do because he's locked up in jail, or because he hasn't, as some callers pointed out, provided a blueprint for how to gain more democracy and freedom inside China.
Shuang Chen, many thanks to you. Eric in Beijing's on the phone. Eric, we're not going to have a chance to speak to you, I'm afraid, which is frustrating. I know you had concerns about coming onto the programme. I'm glad you decided to come on the phone, if not into the studio, but I'm afraid we're completely out of time. Maybe we can get you on World Have Your Say on BBC World Service Radio in a couple of hours' time. If you want to carry on this discussion, worldhaveyoursay.com is the place to do it. Thanks to Jean in France, to Andrew in Hong Kong, to Andrew in New York as well, and to everyone else who's taken part in the discussion. This one will carry on for a while. I'll speak to you soon on BBC World News. Goodbye.